There we go. Hey everyone, this is Robert Jackson. Thank you so much for tuning in. So sorry for any technical issues that we've had prior to this, but nonetheless, we are here today chatting with another special guest. We have Miss Bettina Bush sitting alongside me today. So thank you very much for joining me on this
Thanks
lovely
for
after
having me.
morning.
Lovely to be here.
Yeah, no problemo. So, would you like to share to the audience what is it that you do and your resume portfolio and just general you know stuff about yourself that we would love to get to know you a little more.
Oh, okay. Well, when my voiceover career, which began when I was a kid, and when I was little, I was a very outgoing kid and loved acting and singing and all of the above in the entertainment industry. And so I got into doing commercials and modeling, and I ended up um, doing some voiceover commercials when I was, little, like 6, 7, 8 years old. And that led to voicing Lucy Little on the Littles back in the 80s. And that was Deke, that was Deke's flagship cartoons on ABC on Saturday morning cartoons. Deke at the time had Inspector Gadget and the Littles, and then we went from a very successful run on the Littles to also doing. I ended up voicing Dottie Dog on the Get Along Gang, and being cast as the iconic voice of Rainbow Brite, which is what most people tend to know me from. And Rainbow Brite was, as everyone knows, is just an amazing character, and she brought color to the universe. She's beloved by many '80s kids. So I voiced Rainbow Brite, and we did TV shows, movie, storybook records. And then we did 2 albums where I got to sing on the albums. One was Paint a Rainbow in Your Heart, and the other one was a Christmas album. And those were tons of fun. Loved those. Those were on Buena Vista Records, which was Disney at the time. And went on to do the first iteration of My Little Pony. I know it's on now in like a whole new form, and it's so fantastic and colorful and wonderful. My kids actually love that version as well. But we did My Little Pony and Friends, and that was 65 episodes, and every episode had a song, which was super fun for me because anything that incorporated music I loved to do. And There was where I met the fantastic Charlie Adler and worked with and the director Judy McSwain. Worked with some really iconic voiceover actors on all of these shows. I worked with Don Messick and Pat Fraley. Grew up with Scott Menville, and I think it was Rick Dees and Julie Dees, who was a great artist in her own right. And gosh, who else was on these shows? Um, It was directed by Marcia Goodman for all of the Deke stuff. Andy Hayward, obviously, was a dear friend and mentor. And then went on to do After My Little Pony. It was, just a long voiceover career that spanned my entire life. I was on the Rugrats as Elisa Carmichael. And then later on went on to be the voice match for Jada Pinkett Smith for Gloria the Hippo in Madagascar, which is my current fun favorite to do. She's fantastic, and it's kind of come full circle because my daughter is now in a Madagascar play. It's kind of these things come back around in such crazy ways. So it's been a really fun ride. Is there anything specific that you wanted to know about?
Yeah, so when you were a kid, when you wanted to be an actor or like modeling and get into, the whole show business, when you got into this industry, so when you were a kid, how was it like growing up? Were there like a lot of opportunities for you when you were young, or basically where you grew up in, or how would you describe like your early childhood years? If we're gonna go a bit, if we're gonna rewind and go back. just a
Sure.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I was actually born on the East Coast, and we moved to Los Angeles when I was 4. My dad got a job out here, and so that lent itself to a child who wanted to be in the industry. This was where it was at. I didn't have any family in the business. Nobody really knew what they were doing. It wasn't one of those kids who, oh, my dad did it, so it was easy or anything like that. We broke in the old-fashioned way. I took it and took singing lessons and got a manager and an agent by door knocking and getting pictures taken and things, and then I just started auditioning. And fortunately I had a very supportive family. My mom took me on all my auditions when I was little, and then when I started booking jobs, I'm the youngest of 3, and so my brother was old enough to drive me to my jobs and take me to my jobs so that my mom could be around for my sister. So it was kind of, it had to be a family affair because when you're a minor and you're working, you have to have somebody taking care of you, guardian, looking after you and taking you to the set and everything. But it was super fun because I worked with a lot of other kids who did the same thing. And I wound up going to a school for kids who worked. So that way we would just go to that school, pick up our work, and then we'd go to the set and we'd work with a set. A different school experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I absolutely loved it. I was always the kid who chose to work over doing anything else. If I, occasionally I had to pass, on a trip to Disneyland or something like that every kid loves to do, and that would be a bummer. But otherwise, I wanted to go to work. I liked it a lot. It was so much fun for me. And it was fun knowing other kids who had the same interest as me, the same passion as me. The kids that I worked with were kids who loved to work too, and were passionate about acting and passionate about music, or whatever it was that they aspired to continue doing in life. So yeah, it was the old fashioned way of getting into the business, of just door knocking and auditioning and hoping for the big break with the casting directors. And I ended up finding mine with Andy Hayward and Deke, and then just growing a lifelong career from there.
Yeah. And what's your family supportive of your, I guess we use this fancy term, creative endeavors, so to speak?
Very much so. Yeah. It was I grew up in a household where if you took care of your academics and you had good grades and you were responsible, you were allowed to do whatever it was you wanted to do with your free time. And I was one of those kids that it was kind of undeniable that I was going to be in entertainment in some shape or form. Whenever I was around people, I was always trying to put on a show or sing a song or, interview them or whatever it was. I was always on, and I was always wanting to do some type of entertaining. So it's kind of, they were supportive by default. They didn't really have a choice because it was what I was going to do anyway. And I was a good kid. I had good grades, and I was mindful of my parents. And so, the trade-off was, if you take care of business, then, you can do what it is that you want to do. So they were very supportive, and it also takes for your family to, back then it was, you had to get a photo shoot, had to get headshots, things like that. So it took some money to put behind you to get you started. And they absolutely were there for me in that capacity and did that for me. It was also a lot of time. We lived in the Valley, and so we had to drive into Hollywood. And so that was taking up my mom's time. But yeah, they were right there for me, and they supported it, and they helped me get to where I am today.
Nice. And I also read that like particularly your father was he was a graduate of the US Air Force Academy. And I often find these very interesting because I have members in the family who are also from the Army, Navy. So and I would love to hear like stories about families, people's experiences being like serving in the military and just serving to protect the country. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, my dad was an incredible man. His name was Charles B. Bush, And he was the first Black graduate of the United States Force Academy. He was also the first Black page on Capitol Hill to the Supreme Court right after Brown versus the Board of Education. And he's been memorialized in the African American Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. He was a very strong figure in diversity in the military before he passed. He co-wrote a book called Attitudes Aren't Free, and the foreword was written by Barack Obama. My dad was an amazing man, but he was a pioneer and a trailblazer in the civil rights movement, and kind of blazed a trail for the people to come after him in terms of being the first to accomplish things that no one had yet had the doors opened to be able to do. And so, being raised by someone like that, and he and my mom were married for almost 50 years when he passed, being raised by parents whose values were so deeply rooted in, patriotism and gratitude for what you have, and a very strong work ethic, a bar of excellence that was just kind of understood. It suited my personality. I liked that structure, and I liked having challenges to meet, and I liked the fact that I knew that nothing got handed to you. You had to work for it, and I think that I'm really fortunate to have had parents who set such a high bar and such a great example for me. But yeah, it's an honor to have been raised by a military father and a patriot of this amazing country, and someone who helped bring about change and opportunity for other people of color.
Yeah. And later, he must have been also was an absolutely fantastic like businessman, like executive. And yeah, thank you. Um, yeah, I just really appreciate for all that he did. And even though he's no longer with us, he's still here in spirit.
That's absolutely right. And actually, I just co-wrote a chapter of the sequel to Attitudes Aren't Free. I was asked to write a chapter on my dad's experience in his life, and so that book is very much in touch with many of his Air Force Academy colleagues and people who are still pushing towards change and diversity. And as you mentioned, my dad went to Harvard Business School, and I was a pioneer there as well, and went on to have a really great career as an executive. And that's what brought us out to California, where I had the opportunity to pursue my dreams.
Cool. Oh yeah. Have you always wanted to write or like publish books or anything?
I think everything has been just a natural progression in my life. I've always, when I was a kid, I had a little typewriter, and I would spend summertime by myself. Like my kids sit on their iPads, and my daughter likes to animate. That's her thing. She's very much in animation. I used to sit on my little typewriter, and I would write short stories, and I would write plays, and I would write screenplays, and it was just for fun. It was not, it wasn't for anything other than my own enjoyment. And I think I just didn't realize that passion for creative writing was going to come out later on in life. I'm actually working on a children's book as well right now, and I have wound up doing a lot of writing and journalism and articles and things like that. So from my voiceover career when I had children, it kind of lent itself to, I was asked to host a radio show for Parenting Magazine called Magazine Live. It was a nationally syndicated radio show, and then from there, I wound up being asked to host a similar show for Working Mother magazine, and being named their editor at large. And so I started doing a lot of parenting journalism, and it has been so much fun. And as the editor at large of Working Mother, I've been able to begin a production company and create digital videos, giving parents tools that they need and kids tools that they need to help create a kinder generation. Try to, we all have goals to make the world a better place than what we came in. Hopefully we leave it behind better than we left it. And so we kind of address those ways to do that, ways to help raise your kids so that they're, mindful of those things, and how to treat people, and how to, as a parent, how to be empathetic and communicate properly. So a lot of those things have been really a wonderful progression of from my voiceover career into radio and into journalism. And then, spending so much time in the parenting space and being a mom myself now, I see um, there's there are just all kinds of things that have been sparked in me that I knew things that I'd like to do. And you probably are aware that there's a library dedicated named after my dad, memorializing my dad at a school in California. And my dad had a passion and a love for reading. And part of why he was so successful in life was because of his passion for reading. He would go to the library and he would just ingest books. I've never seen anybody read so much in my life. But it made him this deeper person, and it made him a more well-rounded person, a more empathetic person, an understanding person of other people's situations, diversity, cultural differences, even just differences in thought processes. And so that, I think that innate love of reading and being surrounded by books and that creative writing that I used to enjoy so much as a child, that's kind of lent itself to my wanting to create something of my own in that space. And so I have done a lot of journalism, a lot of family journalism, travel journalism, and now some screenwriting and children's books. So yeah, it just keeps on moving forward, and I just kind of follow my heart and what it is that I'm being called to do next.
Yeah, so I guess with everything that you're doing right now, I guess you all pretty much owe it to your dad and your mom, like just family in general with journalism and just everything else that you're pretty much doing
I
so
think
far
that,
in your
yeah, the
career.
theme in my life has kind of been family. It's
Yeah.
being rooted in, parents who were together their entire lives, and, such a loving, supportive relationship, and them, making sure that we had everything we needed, not only a strong example, but also, walking the walk and talking the talk of what it was to strive for the best and to try to set a good example for others and celebrate diversity and embrace others, and also have a really strong work ethic and go after the things that you want and not limit yourself. So yeah, I do. I have a lot to be grateful for with them. And my mom is still here. She spends tons of time with us. She lives in Montana, but she comes and visits all the time, and she's very close with my children. So the cycle continues. My kids have. I always say the best gift I can give my kids is time with my parents. So I've done my best to do that.
So how did you actually get into journalism and being a host on news stations and for yeah, how did that all begin for you?
So
Does it
that'll
also tie into? I'm sorry.
go ahead.
No, I mean, like, does that also tie into like your career like as a performer, and did that also lead you to like become a journalist and being a host for you know networks and news stations and whatnot?
Yeah, so the it was really a natural progression of the fact that I was, I've always been in voiceover and I never stopped working in voiceover. I still do, and the fact that I had so many people had known me in my lifetime from the voiceover world, and I was approached by Alan Taylor, who's an incredible radio host, and he's been on television and in radio for years. And Alan was doing a deal with Parenting Magazine, and when they said, well, you need a host who's a mom, and it can carry a show, and he said he just instantly thought of me, and so he reached out, and I had literally just had my daughter, and was pregnant with my son, and we started talking about it, and that it was a natural progression. And so Parenting Magazine Live was also part of my finding that new passion of being a new mom and having a million questions to ask of all these experts. And I thought, my God, what better role could I have than having all of these people at my fingertips, being able to ask them all the questions that I want to know and need to know the answer to. And so when you spend, hours and hours a week, reading all these parenting magazines and reading these books because you're interviewing authors, and watching shows because you're interviewing the hosts, and you're spending all this time doing this, you by default you end up getting all of this knowledge, and being able to see all the different sides of people's philosophies and ways to do things, and you speak to the doctors, and you speak to the authors, it's really it just became something that I was very passionate about because of being a mom, but then also because I saw it as a really great way to influence um, the next generation, and when you look at what you want to leave as your legacy and how you're going to go about it, I thought hosting these shows that speak to, the values that matter to me, and being able to produce digital content and being an on-camera host of a digital show, alongside with syndicated radio show, and being able to create content, that it really felt like the right thing to do in many ways. It fed my creative juices, but it also fed my values.
Yeah. So going back into voiceover, because you've done shows of like you mentioned, My Little Pony, The Littles, and you were also on like Rugrats, Ben 10, Age Gone Hand, and yeah, and like you said, Rainbow Brite and Gloria and the Madagascar video games. So for Rainbow Brite in particular, how would you say that the character has you know positively impacted your life and just you as a person, as an actress, and just how it proved to be like an influence, and how it sort of helped build like sort of like a following, like a fandom? Like, did you kind of expect it to be like yeah, this was the star making role, or like did you expect this to like really become like really take off your career the way it did, and how it had a like with My Little Pony in particular too? Like, did you expect like these franchises that you voiced, that you were involved in, did you expect these to take off and have an impact on the community and fandom to
I
this very
feel like
day?
I really had no idea the power of what I was doing when I was doing it. I remember very, very well being a young girl and walking into the studio and being handed a black and white sketch of Rainbow Bright and being told, what do you think she'd sound like? And just talking about her and discussing who she was and what she was about and everything, and doing the voice. And I remember feeling like, oh my God, I love this character. And I just loved her because of she brings color to the universe. Who doesn't love that? But she's also a boss, and she's just bright and fun and wonderful. And for her to live on the way that she has, back when we first did the Rainbow Bright shows and the movie and the records and all of it, there was no internet. There was no fandoms. It was just you get fan mail to your agent, and that was pretty much it. And so I don't think I realized the depth and the vastness of her reach. And it's hard to put that into perspective when you're young, but I have to say I feel like the one of the biggest blessings of my life by far has been the ability to voice Rainbow Bright and sing her songs. And um, I didn't realize, and I do now, now that there is email and there is the internet and there are fandoms, I had no idea the impact that she was having on kids. And when the adults reach out to me and they tell me their stories, I could not be more thankful that I was able to connect with them on that way without even knowing it. She brought, and I don't take full credit for it. I was just a part of the entire picture of her. But the fact that she was such an influence and such a positive influence on so many kids and brought hope to so many kids who were in dark places, and that she, even now, I get fan mail constantly from Rainbow Bright fans, and one of the key things that I hear all the time is, I was a little boy who wasn't accepted for who I was, and I would listen to the sound of your voice, and it would just make things better. And I mean, I cry every time I read one of these emails, and they come in all the time, and I get requests to sign photos and things like that. But you know, it's a real gift, and I don't take it lightly or for granted that these people felt so comforted by the sound of my voice and by what Rainbow Bright meant to them. And I think it's huge and it's really wonderful. And I'm grateful and fortunate to have been a part of all of that.
Yeah. And for Kai Green as well. I'm looking at this right now, and it turns out that Kai Green is kind of up there as one of your best roles. So how is it like working on Ben 10?
I love Ben 10. What a great show.
Yeah.
Ben 10 was, it's always just been fun, whenever I get the call to go to the Cartoon Network to do that show, what a fun cast, what a great character, never a dull moment. The scripts are just so bright and so well written, so creative. Yeah, I'm a huge Ben 10 fan. My kids are Ben 10 fans. I think I would probably watch that show if I wasn't on
Oh,
it.
yeah. And how are you enjoying like the new My Little Pony? Like, is it the fifth generation they're in right now? Yeah,
There
how
have
have
been
you been?
so many
Yeah,
iterations of
so
it.
many iterations. Are you enjoying
Yeah,
this new one? Yeah.
they've been wonderful. My daughter watches it in the mornings. I think they're
Oh, cool.
great. I'm a huge advocate of anything that just tries to bring positivity and strong morality. And that's what those
I
My Little
agree.
Pony shows are really all about: staying positive and treating people the way you want to be treated, and puts kids in different scenarios of how to be a friend, and they're bright and they're fun, and I love that. I think that we need more of that in the world.
Yeah. And you were also in the movie Journey to Spirit Land, which was
Oh
a
my
film in
goodness.
1988. I mean,
You've done it all.
yeah, I do my research. So yeah. Tell us a little bit about working on that movie in
Oh, that
particular.
was such a great time. So I was a teenager when I did Journey to Spirit Island, and I absolutely loved every moment of that shoot. So my mom and I packed our bags and we went up to the Pacific Northwest, and we spent a good deal of time there, many weeks shooting. I got to live on an Indian reservation. I got to learn how to canoe. We were on boats most of the shoot. A lot of the shoot were on boats, and swimming, and all these things that I love. I'm a water girl through and through. I love water sports, water everything, and I still to this day my love of canoeing started on that trip. And I still, one thing missing from my life is I want a boat. Don't have a boat, but I
Mhm.
love being on boats. I love being on the water. But the most beautiful thing about Journey to Spirit Island was absolutely the ability to be immersed in a Indian reservation, and how well I was embraced by the people who lived there, and how they wanted to make sure that I understood who they were, what their customs were. Um, I had an appreciation for their dances, their clothing, their ceremonies, their land. It just the cultural experience was amazing. And being able to work with Vilma Sigmund, who was the cinematographer for Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and he was an Academy Award winning cinematographer, and he was just unbelievable. The things that I learned on that set, just about being an artist technically, were huge. And working with Brandon Douglas, who was just a wonderful co-star, and he went on to be on many things, and he's just fantastic. It was just really a positive experience and a lot of fun, and yeah, I loved it.
Yeah. And I actually didn't know that you performed like the McDonald's I'm Loving It commercial jingles for many years. And I would just hear those all the time as a kid. So that's very that's just a little fun blast to the past that I
Yeah,
just,
I'm the girl
you
you
know,
grew up with and don't even know it.
uh-huh.
People
Yeah.
have been listening to me their whole lives, and they don't know it. I've been in your car with you. I've been in your living room with you. I've been
You're just
everywhere. You just didn't
everywhere.
know it.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
but speaking of music, though, your early influences were Dolly Parton and Elton John. So for your music career in particular, how are they instrumental on, um, helping you find your individual style when it comes to, singing and also doing records and working in a lot of different song covers. So, yeah, tell us about your musical career and how those two in particular were instrumental in,
Yeah, so
um,
Dolly Parton,
yeah.
I always love listening to her storytelling. she's unmatched, that she's the most prolific, amazing writer, and her melodies are always so catchy, and her stories are, the way that she tells them and the way that she can turn a lyric and a phrase is just unbelievable. She's just someone, and her, I think what I love the most about Dolly is that I mean, you can't say Dolly Parton without smiling. She's just always positive, and she's bubbly, and she's happy, and she brightens up a room. She's like Rainbow Bright, she just brightens up a room when she steps into it. And that's what I always have aspired to be for people, try to be that positive energy around people in a room, because I feel like that, you don't even know when someone needs that, but it's important to just have it available to them. Just, you never know when it's an instrumental part of someone's life, the fact that you just brought the positivity that day. And so I always try to keep that up. And Dolly was a big influence, with that. And Elton John and his musicality and his individualism, the way that he just is unabashedly himself. I love that about him. I love the complexity of his lyrics, and he and Bernie Taupin have made so many amazing songs together, and also when he did The Lion King and like took that whole, I mean, as though that feature needed to be taken to the next level. The music on top was just unbelievable, and yeah, so those were very strong influences on my music career. So after we did the Rainbow Bright albums, and I continued to write and sing music, I ended up spending some time in Nashville doing songwriter circles and doing shows, and being a singer songwriter, and I eventually wrote and recorded my own album, an independent album called Lucky Girl. And Lucky Girl was entered into an American Idol underground contest, and my single "She Is" won that contest, and they ended up doing a big push on that song, and it ended up charting, and it was on the Billboard 100 single sales chart weeks, and it did very well. It hit number 4, and then I had a follow-up single called "Cradle to the Grave" that hit number 2. A Christmas song called "An American Christmas," which it's still in rotation. It's these all came about in my as I got older. So everything is still very contemporary and in rotation on a lot of satellite radio, and you can find it in your car or anything like that, or on iTunes. And it's really been wonderful. I've had a chance to open for some amazing acts, Smash Mouth and Gretchen Wilson, and just shared the stage with a lot of really great people. And it's I enjoyed it immensely. I ended up doing a lot of charity work through my music, which I'll always be grateful for the opportunity to do that as well.
Nice. So being a mother, do you find that to be like taking care of your kids alongside doing all of this, the work that you've been doing? How do you balance it out and juggle in between, personal responsibilities and going forward with your professional endeavors? Yeah.
It's a day by day, hour by hour process. When you have kids, it's all unpredictable. You never know when someone's going to call and say, "Mommy, I broke my pinky, and I got to be taken to the ER." Like, you just don't know when that's going to happen. And it happened to me a month ago. But
Oh man.
you just don't know, with kids. So it really is a balancing act, and you just have to do your best. And that's kind of how I try not to overthink it. I try not to get stressed out about it. I just try to do my best every day, and be as organized as possible, so that when we get thrown a curveball, at least maybe I'm ahead of the game a little bit, and can take a little delay. But yeah, it's really, I think that being a wife and a mom, and and having a dog and a house, and all these things that come with adulthood, you can still be true to who you are, your authentic self, and move through the day with some kind of grace, as long as you're making sure that you stay true to your morals and your values, and try to stay positive and organized. For me, it's really about being organized and prioritizing things, and family comes first.
Yeah. So do you have anything that you like to share or talk about? What is it that you're working on, or any future projects that we can expect to see um, in the near
Um,
future?
Currently, I'm working on, well, you've probably seen, my production company did a deal with Popular Science Magazine a couple of years ago, and we did the Pop Sci Kids, and my kids, Cassie and Jesse, starred in that digital series, and then they moved on to starting to do travel videos with Disney cruise ships, and they went on an adventure by Disney, and so they've worked with Disney Parks and Travel on some travel television. So we're looking to build upon that with them, and continue with working with them on digital content, as well as I was talking about how I'm writing a children's book. So I can keep you updated on that,
Sure.
uh, and just continuing using my my background and everything that I've been able to experience thus far to create new projects, and open doors for my kids, and try to continue to carry on that legacy of being some type of positive force in a family friendly way throughout my career.
Yeah, so I've noticed that the main theme throughout this interview is being a positive force during times of, well, uh like crisis. It like we're in a bit still in the middle of a pandemic, and there's been wars that have been going around, but for people like you, it's just incredibly humbling, and it's so just it really does paint a light of hope that despite the fact that we're still going through these dark times, there's still a light in the midst of, all the darkness that's been going around. And yeah, despite, the challenges or the obstacles that these past few years have brought upon us, you're still working, and you're still consistently just creating and doing what you love doing. And that's just, and you've been showing no signs of stopping anytime soon. So that's pretty
Thank
much
you.
an important
Thank
uh,
you.
theme that I have on my podcast. Like the pandemic, I know that it's been thrown a few curveballs, but at the end of the day, like the guests, they've all been just super passionate and just love talking about, what they love to do and what they're working on. So it's like, I mean, despite the fact that life can be pretty hard, we still keep going, and we're still consistently doing something that fills our happy spot, that
That's right.
fills my fills our love of just creativity and just entertainment in general.
But
And
when you look through history at artists,
oh yeah,
no matter what's going on throughout history, they'll be a reflection of what's going on in society, and they also are someone who is looked to uplift society. And it's so important to remember to find those bright spots, and find ways to laugh and ways to bring hope and joy. And I was talking to my daughter who just turned 12, and she's scared about the war, and she's scared about the pandemic, and she said, "Mommy, the world isn't necessarily the most hopeful place. It's kind of scary." And I said, "Yeah, but you know what? Those kids who are right now suffering through the war and being displaced, and going through all these hardships, what they would want if they could is to be able to do what you're doing, and that's focus on your education, focus on making the most of the gifts that you've been given, and focus on being a positive force, because it's the only way that we're going to move this world forward in the best way possible. So if you have the ability to do that, because that's the best thing you can do. And of course, be charitable and do what we can to support them in whatever ways we can. But really, it's for us, we just try to prioritize staying true to yourself, and staying positive, and trying to use that light to bring good for others.
yeah. And who knows what the future brings, because nobody really knows at this time. But
No,
yeah,
never.
that's just pretty much a good closing thoughts, like little lesson to, just cap this all off, because yeah, who knows what will happen in the future. Who knows what today will bring, who knows what tomorrow brings. You just have to do your best, and just continue to keeping that light and that hope, be keeping that shining light in the midst of the darkness.
My
um
favorite Rainbow Bright quote is, "When you're down, don't forget to look up. You might just see a rainbow."
oh yeah. Yep.
We have to
So
remember
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. is there anything that you're watching or like that you're consuming right now that you like to recommend to people?
Oh, what am I
Any
watching?
recommendations? Yeah, it could be just any book, movie, just any media that you like to recommend.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, let's see. I just watched um, Inventing Anna, and I think the woman, the actress, and her name is escaping me right now, but the actress who stars in that she is one of the best new gifts of our acting world. She is incredible. I know she's on Ozark, and she's being considered to do some other really important biopics that I'd like to see, and I just really enjoyed her performance. So that, and then also the remake of West Side Story.
I
Absolutely,
haven't seen it yet.
just obsessed with it. It's just amazing, and I highly recommend that as well.
I should probably actually watch that. But
Yes.
yeah, so what's something about yourself, like anything fun or interesting that a lot of people don't really know about you that you
Ooh,
like to share?
things that people don't know, but I'm a dog lover. I love
Um,
animals. I have a big dog. I don't know where he went. He was over here before. He's a German Shepherd Rottweiler mix, and I my whole life I've had Shepherd mix mutts. And I'm a big proponent of rescuing animals, and so all of my dogs that I've ever had personally have been rescues. And yeah, there's nothing that's going to make me smile more than a puppy.
yeah, and apparently you're a lover of pie, if I'm not
I am a
mistaken.
lover of pie.
Literally just looked
Yes.
at your Twitter bio and like, oh, lover of pie. I'm like, oh,
Yes,
hey,
lover pie.
sweet tooth. Nice.
Yes, well, I only get it every now and then. My favorite is I like apple pie and peach pie the best with the crumbly tops.
Man, oh my gosh. Yeah. I used to eat like cookies. Like I tried you know, I don't remember which type of pies that I've ended up trying, but I guess they weren't really for me, but I really used to love cookies and eating them all the time every day until, the sugar and everything just I mean, it's not that it did anything to my body. It's just, cavities and having to get those filled or
That's
just,
right. Can't get away
yeah.
with it all the time.
Yeah, big regret.
It's a now and then kind of thing.
So yeah. But yeah, any closing thoughts or any final like piece, like bit of advice that you like to close us out on? And just where do you expect just everything moving forward with your career, just everything in general, the world, just your own closing thoughts for the
Yeah.
future? Just any last piece of advice that you want to close us out on before we conclude this fun little interview.
Closing thoughts would be, I think, throughout my life, I always just try to listen to that voice inside. We all have it. And when you listen to it, you go in the right direction. And anytime you don't, you can always remember those times because things didn't turn out the way they should. So always listen to that little voice inside you and follow your heart and follow those gifts that you've been given and make the most out of them. We're not guaranteed tomorrow, but we can make the most of today. So try to make it the best you can.
Yep. And considering your responsibilities as a mother, voice actress, editor at large, host of the radio programs and all of that fun stuff. And yeah, and probably consuming sugar. I don't know. But yeah, it's pretty much, yeah, closing thoughts. That's pretty much a good way to end this episode. So thank you so much, Bettina, for stopping by today. And yeah, any final farewells or goodbyes that you want to say to people, either as yourself, as a character that you've done, or just you could just be creative as much as you can. It's
Thank you so much for having me. And I can give you a little rainbow bright, little taste of rainbow bright. Come on, everybody, let's go over the rainbow.
nice.
Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Yeah, not a problem. Would you like to do like a little like closing so I pretty much do this for the guests where they say, "Hi, my name is name of the guest," and then I do this and this, and you've just tuned in or you're watching the Station Square podcast.
Absolutely. Hey, I'm Bettina Bush, and I am the voice of Rainbow Bright and My Little Pony and Gloria from Madagascar on the video games. And you are listening to the Station Square podcast.
Not I mean, since this is a video,
Oh,
you
you
could,
want me to do it
yeah.
again?
Yeah, you could do it again and you can do like the character voices and then say you're watching the Station Square podcast.
Okay. Hey, everybody, it's Bettina Bush here. I am the voice of Rainbow Brite and My Little Pony, and Kai on Ben 10. And you are watching the Station Square podcast.
Perfect. Hey. Yeah, makes my job a whole lot easier. So yeah, thank you very much for stopping by once again, and be sure to stay tuned and check out this video once this goes up on SoundCloud or YouTube or whichever podcast platforms that this is going to
Fantastic.
be. Yeah, so thank you very much for everybody watching this, and be sure to tune in next time. And yeah, stay safe, stay healthy, stay hydrated. Please, it's hot over here. But yeah, and until then, this is Robert Jackson signing out for today, this fine afternoon. So thank you very much. And yeah, stay tuned for next time, folks. I'm Robert Jackson, and I am out of here. Whoosh! Yeet. Bye.
Bye.
Stay safe. Peace.